Hello Booktube, I'm Jonathan and welcome to Words in Time. Now in today's video, I'm going to be discussing 7 of the main subgenres of science fiction, and for each subgenre giving you 3 book recommendations. So hopefully this is helpful for people looking for a new subgenre of sci-fi to try or a new book to try within a particular genre. So let's get into them. First up, we have hard sci-fi, which I know can be potentially a little off-putting for some readers, as some hard sci-fi books can get bogged down a little bit in the science, and that comes at the expense of plot and character development. But I think hard sci-fi, when done well, authors that really understand the science can use the science to explore really interesting concepts like time dilation or wormholes or multiple universes. So a couple of examples: Rendezvous with Rama by Arthur C. Clarke for its mind-bending visuals and its lingering mysteries. Next, we have House of Suns by Alistair Reynolds for its sheer volume of mind-blowing sci-fi concepts, as well as intriguing characters and the ambitiousness of scope. This book takes place over millions of years. And thirdly, we have The Three-Body Problem by Cixin Liu, which I recommend for how it combines physics with philosophy, as well as aliens, which always helps. Next up, we have military sci-fi, which tends to lean in one of 2 directions. You have a bit more of a fun shoot-'em-up style adventure, or you have books that are a bit more of a heavy exploration of the atrocities and effects of war. So whether you're interested in either of those 2 styles, here are my 3 recommendations. I would recommend The Forever War by Joe Haldeman for its unique sci-fi concepts, its interesting characters and human moments, and its grounded approach to space battle. Then we have Ender's Game by Orson Scott Card, which I'd recommend for its fully realized characters, its interesting tactical battles, and some really interesting themes. I think about this book a lot. And finally, we have Old Man's War by John Scalzi. And I would recommend this one for its unique characters and its sense of humor. Bit of a different approach to the genre. For our third subgenre, we have space opera. And there can be a bit of an overlap between space opera and the previous 2 genres, but something that space opera tends to focus on is the world building. So we're likely to come across many planets, a lot of technology, maybe different alien species. So if you really like diving into a world, I highly recommend checking out some space opera. And because of the effort that goes into the world building, you'll find that space opera often tends to be series. Sci-fi is often written in a lot of standalones due to the focus on a particular idea or technology. But if you want to pick up some series, here are my 3 space opera recommendations. First, we have The Hyperion Cantos by Dan Simmons, a 4-book series comprised of 2 duologies, which I would recommend for its amazing characters, its depth of writing, and really ambitious world building. The Hyperion world is one of my favorite worlds to read about. Next, we have The Expanse, which I would recommend for its fun characters, buddy dynamics, and I think a believable near future. And thirdly, we have Sun Eater by Christopher Rocchio, which I would recommend for its lyrical writing, its amazing characters, and truly jaw-dropping moments. Definitely one of my favorite current series. Moving on, we have dystopian sci-fi, which is a genre that tends to look forward into the future and kind of makes predictions as to where we might end up based on some trends that we are seeing now. And by the name of the genre itself, not too well. Things aren't going too great. This is not the utopian subgenre of sci-fi, it's the dystopian subgenre of sci-fi. And it's interesting to look at some classic dystopian books and see how accurate they were in predicting the future. And even if they weren't all that accurate, they are still interesting thought experiments. And we can still take little tidbits and see if we can apply them to our own lives or society and see what we can learn from them. And hopefully they're just a good fun story to read as well. So my 3 recommendations for this one are 3 classics. We have Fahrenheit 451 by Ray Bradbury, which I would recommend for its beautiful prose and the interesting way that it looks at how society can be controlled by what we read and what we think. Next, we have Brave New World by Aldous Huxley, which I would recommend for its intriguing story and the way it examines how society can be influenced by things like media and drugs. And finally, we have 1984 by George Orwell, which I would recommend for the way that it explores the surveillance state, and as well as just a story that feels like taking a sledgehammer to the soul. Absolutely one of my favorite books. Up next, we have First Contact, and this is always an exciting one, meeting aliens for the first time and trying to decipher whether they are friendly, benevolent aliens or whether they are evil aliens here to cause destruction. So I enjoy that dynamic, and it's always intriguing to me to learn more about the aliens and find out in what ways they might be similar or different to humans. So my 3 recommendations for First Contact include The Mote in God's Eye by Larry Niven and Jerry Pournelle, which I would recommend for the depth at which we get to explore the alien species of the Motes. Their biology, their society, I found to be really, really interesting. Next, we have The War of the Worlds by H.G. Wells, which really kind of set the bar early on for the invasion disaster story when it comes to meeting aliens for the first time. And thirdly, we have Childhood's End by Arthur C. Clarke, which I would recommend for its thought-provoking concepts. The scope, the expanse at which it views things from is really zoomed out and just really blew my mind. I haven't stopped thinking about it since I read it. With our second last subgenre, we have Cyberpunk. So Cyberpunk tends to revolve around concepts like artificial intelligence and transhumanism with body modifications, microchips in your arm and in your brain, and things like that. And these forms of advanced technology seem to not end up in creating utopias for society, at least from most cyberpunk authors. They tend to be a little dark, a little grungy, a little dystopian in their futures. So 3 cyberpunk novels that I would recommend for you include Neuromancer by William Gibson, which maybe didn't start the genre. I'm sure it was influenced by writers like Philip K. Dick, but it definitely came to define the genre with its unique forward-looking concepts and by popularizing concepts and terms like the Matrix and cyberspace. Next up, we have Snow Crash by Neil Stephenson, which I haven't actually read, but I'm going to recommend to you purely because Michael from Fit to Be Read won't stop telling me to read it. So I'm sure it's very interesting. It's on my TBR for this year. If you have read it, let me know your thoughts on this cyberpunk novel. And thirdly, we have Altered Carbon by Richard K. Morgan for its dark setting, heavy themes, and hyperviolence. This one is tough to read or watch if you've seen the Netflix series, but if you like that cyberpunk feel, this is definitely one you should dive into. And our last subgenre, one of my favorites, is time travel. Now, I probably don't need to explain this one to you guys, but it's always fun to me to see the different mechanisms by which our characters can travel through time, the laws of time travel that the author decides to apply to their story, and the ways in which the characters go about traveling through time. So for my 3 time travel recommendations, we have The Time Machine by H.G. Wells, for kind of kickstarting this genre and for the interesting perspective of time travel from someone living in the 1800s. Next, we have Replay by Ken Grimwood, which I recommend for its time loop, groundhog style of time travel, and for its interesting character exploration as we have a character reliving a large chunk of his life over and over again. And finally, Replay by Blake Crouch, which I recommend for its interesting detective story combined with scientific concepts and unrelenting pace, an absolutely incredible, fast-paced time travel read. So those are 7 of my favorite subgenres of science fiction. If you enjoy this kind of content, let me know, hit that subscribe button and I can make more of this type of content for you. Also let me know what kind of subgenres of sci-fi you're reading and what are some of your favorite books within those genres. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, you can find more sci-fi content over here.